especially with regards to in-ground plumbing. People aren't even aware of how much of an impact it can be on your home. So, g'day and welcome to the Making of Myles podcast. I'm Myles Clark, and on this episode we're looking at 5 critical home maintenance items that you need to know but you may not be aware of. Okay, now on this podcast we have numerous types of formats for this. Just 2 types in particular. We've got the shed, which is similar to this episode where we talk about building related items, home maintenance related items, real estate, things like that. Then there's also the journey, which is more of a personal thing in regards to improving oneself, being better, life lessons, all those great things. So let's get into it. So the 5 critical home maintenance items that you need to know but may not be aware of. Now, these items in particular are something that people aren't familiar with them all the time, and it's critical that you are aware of them, because without maintaining these specific items, this is what can lead to major issues in your house, getting sick, costing you heaps of money, all the things that you really want to mitigate as much as possible, okay? So the first one we have is your in-ground plumbing. The reason why this is such a big deal and it's very important to action accordingly is because the damages that it can cause to your home and then the costs associated with it. Now, some of these damages of in-ground plumbing and the damages might look like are tree roots getting to your plumbing in your stormwater or into your sewer. You might have some movement issues, poor installation, you might have put star pickets through it or just damaged the plumbing in ground because you're never going to see it. These are the common things that do happen. Now, the reason why it's so important is because damaged plumbing is what leads to major movement in properties. Now, around your property, if you have a damaged stormwater pipe or got tree roots and it's blocked, it can flood that local area, which can be reactive to the footings, which can lead to that major movement. As well as that, it can also lead to flooding under the house, which can lead to mold growth, all these types of things, which are all a big no-no and something you just want to avoid 100%. Now, the people you would action to do this and how you would go about it is technology now is fantastic. So most plumbers now, especially in-ground plumbers, do have cameras on board where they can put down your stormwater systems and your sewer systems to make sure there's no damage, there's no blockages, and everything's working as it should. Now, I would highly recommend you get this actioned at least every 5 years. Now, the reason I say that is because if there is a cracked pipe, for example, you're not going to see, and it's not going to cause a lot of issues with the home over a 5-year period. After 5 years, it's going to exponentially cause you dramas and issues if there was some excessive damage nearby. So that's number 1, in-ground plumbing. Number 2, we've got painting. Painting, not internally. We don't give a shit about that. We care about external elements. Your weatherboards, your fascias, your barge boards, your timber windows, your pergolas, your deckings, blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that is external timber work that is protected by paint, okay? So it's not put on there to make it look pretty. It's put on there to protect it from the elements, ideally, right? Now, the issue, the reasons why this is so important is it's to protect your home, all right? So if you have timber work that's wrapped around your house, it might not be structural, okay? So it might be just weatherboards or fascias. It's protecting the house from the water getting in, okay? So you want to make sure that, if there's no paint, it's going to lead to rot, decay. It's just going to fall apart, all right? It's going to allow water getting into your house, which is going to allow water damage, which again is a costly process, which is a pain in the ass to fix. So how would you go about this is you would more or less just walk around your house momentarily, year by year, and just keep on top of bits and pieces that you can see are sort of rotting, paint flaking away, items like that. Now, if you've let it go too far, it probably won't become a painting issue, and you'll need to get more of a carpenter on board to replace fascia boards, replace some of these building elements to sort of give it structure again so you can paint it and cover it all up. So the more on top you are with it, the better off you're going to be. And it's going to really help improve the life of the home and mitigate so many issues, especially with water, especially with timber rot and all those types of things which you want to avoid 100%. Third, we've got roofing, including guttering. Now, what's on top of the structure, what captures the water, and I'm going to put in there the downpipes as well. The house has to be protected from water. Water is a bastard. That is what is going to be the issues that give you the most drama in the property, okay? So, roof sheets. You might have Colorbond roofing, for example, or metal roof sheets, or galvanized roof sheets, or whatever the roof structure is. It might be slate. It might be roof tiles. Could be terracotta tiles, concrete tiles, all the types of tiles. There's so many types of different roof claddings. It's the cladding itself that you really want to make sure you're aware of, and it's maintained accordingly. And it's looked after by the professionals. Look after it. Now, things like metal roofings, for example, don't get maintained as much as like tiled roofs, where you have to repoint and all that sort of things. And these are like, you're looking at like every 5-year intervals, you would get someone out to just touch it up. Or maybe 10 years, you might do a restoration, which would be like, remove tiles, repoint, all those types of things, reseal. Now, it's important that this is undertaken momentarily. Obviously, it's going to be subjective to the type of roof cladding you've got. The next item that I'll be looking at is the guttering. Now, this can be done by yourself. The guttering is much more dependent on where you live. If you live in the middle of the bush or middle of the rainforest, you're going to realize that you're going to couple much more debris in your gutters and going to be doing it much more often. So it's dependent on where you're living, on how often you would do it. But the reason why this is so critical is, once again, blocking up the drains, causing water issues, blocking up the gutters, overflows. It can overflow water next to the house, which again can lead to movement issues. It can overflow into the house, which can lead to water issues, which again is no good. And in those heavy downfall periods, you really want to make sure you're on top of your maintenance items, such as your guttering and your downpipes. It's all clear. So those 1 in 100 year rains that we get every 12 months now, you know that you're safe and it's all going to go away and flood away and flow away as it should. All right. Another important thing to consider with this is, when you're doing the maintenance on these types of things, don't be relying on silicone as your solution all the time, okay? There are certain situations where silicone is probably the best bet, but it's not always something should be relied on. You're not re-silicone every 10 years to make sure that's the way it's going to be. But again, there are some situations you just can't do anything else, okay? Flashing might not work, and it's just something you need to do. So just be mindful of that. It's not always a quick fix to just silicone a broken tile. Sometimes it's just best to replace the broken tile. Easy done. Now, number 4 is something not many people take into consideration often, which is your heating and cooling system. So just your mechanical ventilation system. So anything that's bringing outside air into the home and spreading it through the home, okay? So your ducted heating systems, your reverse cycle cooling, your refrigerated heating and cooling systems, all these types of items. Now, there's a couple of reasons. The main reason why is it just can lead to sort of allergens, or if you do have specific defects, it can pick up you can pick up some horrible allergens along the way. And what I mean by that, and it's very common actually, is that in a lot of roofs, you'll find the ducting system, there might be a section that's sort of come apart in the coupling. So the air is getting blown through and you think it's working fine because the air is still coming out of the register in the ceiling or on the floor. But the problem is it's sort of sucking up dust and just debris on the way through. Okay, so it's dirty as your house and it's not going through any sort of filtration system and it's just getting sucked straight to the room. So 2 things you really want to consider doing is booking it in for annual maintenance. Now, the reason why I say manual maintenance is because this is something you want to be on top of all the time. You want to make sure the equipment is working at optimal systems. All systems go, you could say. You want the filters to be replaced regularly. You want to check that all the ducting is taped together as it should and there's no gaps and damages and stuff like that. So you want it all nice, sealed unit. You want the air getting sucked in through the filtration system, treated, cooled, heated, whatever it's going to do, then dispersed into the rooms without any leakage. Job done. That's all you want. Very simple. The last item, number 5, is a key item that really pisses me off often is wet areas. What I mean by wet areas is, you wouldn't believe it, areas that get wet. Now, we're talking bathrooms, we're talking even laundries, powder rooms, no, not so much kitchens, wherever you're going to have a lot of excess water, okay? Now, we're only going to talk about the bathrooms here because these are the most critical areas and these are the ones that cause the most issues. The reasons why this is so critical is because it leads to slow leaks with poor maintenance, which can lead to major defects, major issues, mold, health issues, structural issues. All the issues that you can think under the planet will come from damaged bathrooms. Now, this is something that needs to be done regularly. It's not. It's an annual thing that you just look at. You focus on, right, the grouting in the shower recess, it has some cracks in it. It's coming away. I can see the little spaces they've used for the tiling. I can see the tiling glue. These are the things you need to be looking out for and need to be getting rectified, okay? Because what happens if you let it go for longer and longer and longer, it washes more grout out, it lifts tiles, gets water under that, goes through the water membrane. If there is no membrane, it's pretty hard that most membranes do the right job. So the issue you're going to face is you're going to have mold getting built up in walls, which takes a long period of time before you can actually see the signs when it's too late. Okay, before it sort of leaches into the wall, it's already gone up the whole inside of the wall cavity, and it's caused these issues, these health issues, especially people with that are very susceptible to sort of respiratory allergens, for example. They're going to cop it bad. Okay, now as well as that is other things like even replacing silicons and that in these shower recesses. You want to make sure that the water stays in the shower recess and goes down the drain. Now, if you have a bit more of an open area, a bit more of like you might have a floor waste in that room and there's the capacity for water to get out of that shower, you might step out of the shower, there's no shower door, shit like that. Now, the things you want to be careful of then is where the water's going. So if it is sitting in a corner of the room and it's sort of getting sucked up into the skirting, that's going to cause damage there. All these things you want to consider. So it's just a simple process of looking at how it used to be when it was worked perfectly brand new and how it is now, and just you will see the decay, okay? You will see the cracks in the tiles. You can just push it on the wall. You can see any sorts of movement, bits and pieces. You just want to make sure that's all kept up to date because that is a killer in most homes. So these 5 items are what I look at as the most critical home maintenance items that you need to know, but most of us may not be aware of, okay? Some are pretty plain and simple and do make sense. Some, especially with regards to in-ground plumbing, people aren't even aware of how much of an impact it can be on your home. So it's important that you understand these 5 steps. So we're going to recap. We've got the in-ground plumbing, I think, is the number 1 critical item. 2, we've got the painting of external components, okay? 3, roofing, including the guttering, all right? 4, the heating and cooling systems, anything sucking air from the outside or the inside and it's getting spread out throughout the home. And number 5 are the wet areas, okay? So these are the 5 critical home maintenance items that you need to know, but you may not be aware of. So make sure you're going through your home, checking these one by one. And I hope you're looking after your house as well, okay? Because it's you look after it, it will look after you. I hope this helps. It's another episode of The Shed and Making It with Myles, and have a good one. See ya.